Hey there guys, this is Scribble Sketch here and welcome back to my channel. Now if you follow me closely on Twitter then you may know that I have been obsessed with playing Fire Emblem Three Houses. Safe to say I am still obsessed after finishing my first route, the Blue Lions. I am currently playing New Game Plus with the Golden Deer, but wandering around the monastery I can't help but see my former Blue Lion students and feel sad that I am not teaching them. So to make myself feel a little better, I thought I would list off how I rank the Blue Lion students. Now, everyone will have their preferences, and that's what makes this game special to each person. You have that one student that you may give special treatment to, maybe it's more than one, but everyone's tastes are different. I will do my best to avoid spoilers, I won't mention supports that happen after the time skip, and for this list, I won't be including Flame. While she may join your class at some point, she is not part of the core class of Blue Lions, so sorry Flame fans, no fish memes for this video. Number 8. Annette. Unfortunately for Annette, I didn't use her a lot in my playthrough for the Blue Lions route, and while I wanted to enjoy her supports with other characters, I felt like I didn't enjoy the majority of them. Annette's main character focus is that she becomes far too work focused, to the point of being scatterbrained and making mistakes sometimes. Through most of her support she does try to overcome this, but I just didn't seem to enjoy the supports that focus too much on this. It probably didn't help her cause that out of all of my students, her growths were just the worst. I did try my best to level her up and get her to the same stage as my other units, but she just couldn't keep up. She ended up either benched or just providing ally support to other characters in my army. If I did have to say anything positive though, I did enjoy her supports with Mercedes and Dimitri. So while she is a sweet girl, I sadly have to put her to the bottom of my list. Number 7. Ingrid. I'm a little torn over Ingrid because when initially hearing her character description about her being a glutton for good food, I felt like I wouldn't like her too much. But oddly enough, this rarely actually came up in the story or in any of her supports. Sure, she mentions that she was well fed growing up, but she corrects the player that she is somewhat of a thrifty character. Her main character trait is her overwhelming desire to be a knight, but as the holder of a crest, her family does not want her to have this fate. She was a decent unit in my army, and while I focused on making her a Pegasus/Falcon Knight, she was kind of outclassed by other flyers in my army. Still, I stuck with her because she was able to pull off crits at a decent rate. Her best supports for me personally are actually with her childhood friends, Dimitri, Sylvain, and Felix. Maybe it's due to them already being familiar with each other, so their supports aren't wasted establishing each other's personalities. I just felt it helped a lot for liking her. Number 6. Didu. Didu. I have to admit that out of all of the Blue Lions class, he was the male member I was initially the least interested in. I'm not sure why, but the trope of a gentle giant doesn't draw me in very well, so at first I brushed him aside and didn't focus on him too much. Then when he started wrecking the battlefield, I thought I better give him more of a chance since he was quickly becoming a tanky MVP who could save me in a tough situation. I will say that initially his C supports were quite hard to watch, but once I got past them to the higher ranks of conversation, his relationship with the rest of the class improved immensely, and I found myself starting to like him more. Still, his very stoic personality kept him low in my rankings, but I can see what people like about him. His past is also quite plot relevant as well, so while he may be a quiet character, his history speaks volumes for him. Number 5. Mercedes. Of the Blue Lions girls, Mercedes is probably my favourite. There was this mysterious air about her at first. All we knew was that she was formerly from the Empire, but left to join the Kingdom and became a commoner. While this information is brought up in several of her conversations, it doesn't feel like it gets old very quickly. Maybe because she doesn't dwell on it too much and is always looking to the present and even the future. She was the resident healer on my team, so while she wasn't combat heavy, she was able to defend herself if need be. While I do believe that Mercedes and Annette have a perfect ending together, I also really liked her supports with the majority of the class. She always seeks to help others, to allow them a shoulder to lean on. This may be due to the fact that she is a little older than the rest of the students, so she is a bit like a big sister or a mother hen, but it comes from a good place. It's probably these reasons that made her my favourite female student among the Blue Lions. Number 4. Felix. Oh, Felix, the short little angsty boy. I affectionately nicknamed him Sasuke during my run, just because he was razor sharp with how much edge he was exuding. In my army, he was an absolute beast, and originally I was planning on making him some sort of sword master, but it turned out he had the highest amount of charm in my army, and thus he ended up becoming my resident dancer. But he was a dancer that could support his allies and could wreck any enemy who dared try to snipe him. It also helped helps that he looks good in the dancer uniform. Most of his supports usually start off with him being unabashedly rude to whoever he is speaking to, criticizing them on something that they are passionate about for the most part. However, he does have some good points in his arguments, and I felt it made for interesting conversations with his fellow classmates. I also find the history of his family very fascinating, and it clearly reflects how his upbringing and his environment shaped his rather harsh personality. If you smooth out his edges, you can really get to see there's more to Sasuke, Felix. Yeah, I meant to say Felix. Number 3. Sylvain. Most people like to meme about Sylvain due to his flirtatious nature and his playboy-like attitude. Despite that, he has a hidden darkness about him that you actually only see in a few of his supports. He is another character who's quite a bit of emphasis in an early game chapter, and it really fleshes out the history of his family more and gives more insight into his philosophy at life. Of course, I was aware that realistically, Sylvain can be part of any house if you chose the female Byleth, since he is an instant recruitment for playing as a girl. I find this funny, but in my heart, his real home is among his fellow lions, who despite his reputation, he is extremely loyal to. I won't give spoilers to the details, but his ending with Felix is just perfection on this route. Number 2. Dimitri. I didn't exactly expect to love Dimitri so much when I initially picked the Blue Lions. Out of all the house leaders, I admit that Claude was my initial favourite, but over the course of the story, I fell head over heels for Dimitri. This made me feel bad because despite how badly I wanted to marry him, someone else had my heart and I promised to be faithful. With no spoilers for the time skip, Dimitri goes through a very compelling character arc, and I feel like it is even more impactful if you play as female Byleth, though I do admit to also shipping him with male Byleth. I also learned some interesting facts about Dimitri through his supports. Did you guys know that he doesn't really have a sense of taste? So in all of those dialogues where he compliments food, he isn't actually able to taste anything. He just wants to make people feel happy by telling them their food is good. If I had to pick my favourite supports of his, I would have to say it has to be between him and Dudu, as well as him and Marianne. Oh, I should point out I did recruit Marianne for my playthrough, but I didn't include her in this list, as she is not part of the original Blue Lion class. If I ever do another run of the Blue Lions, I may end up tempted to romance the king himself, but who knows. I'm still ploughing through the Golden Deer route for now anyway. Number 1. Ash. Ash. When I first caught a glimpse of the silver-haired boy in the initial 3 houses scans and leaks, he was an instant favourite of mine and one of the main reasons why I picked the Blue Lions for my first playthrough. He is one of the few people in the Blue Lions house who lacks a crest, but he has an origin which is woven into the early plot and the fallout of which is felt for the rest of his characterization in the route. Being adopted into a noble family, he has had to work hard to prove himself his entire life. He never gives up and has a great amount of optimism even in the trying times. Ash also enjoys a great range of hobbies from cooking to gardening and reading. He even shows how honest and sincere he is in his supports, especially since he doesn't shy away from less approachable characters such as Dudu and Felix. Fun fact, Ash was also the character I chose to marry at the end of my route. To say I was crying tears of joy at his proposal is an understatement. I was full on weeping. I certainly did not regret my choice. And there you have it, my rankings for the Blue Lion House. Obviously, I didn't include recruitable members such as the teaching staff and extra characters, so they may get their own video in the future, but I hope you enjoyed this video. These of course were my own opinions and everyone's will be different. Did you support the Blue Lions class and which ones were your favourite units? Please be sure to tell me in the comments below. With that guys, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more Fire Emblem content from my channel, and I will see all of you guys next time. This video was made possible thanks to patrons such as Craig McCutcheon and Neko-Senpai.